What up, people? Push Ball Black here. Let me switch the. I don't know why my phone has you do this, but yeah, it's recording still. Okay, it's close to 9 o'clock. I just needed to get this out. This is another quickie. This may be a quickie. Okay. Per a conversation that I had with a friend of mine last night about driving, and this is something that I've been kind of like thinking about in my head. Okay, we as people of minorities, and I'm gonna put just minorities in general here, but I'm starting to see a trend with people with disabilities too. We are institutionalized as far as system help, and the way the system, as far as the way things are supposed to be done, as far as specific activities in the disabled community. Me and a friend of mine, he's been on this vlog before. I've interviewed him. I'm leaving his name out because I don't know if he wants me to do this. Not wants me to do this, but I don't know if he wants his name out here concerning this. But he has he's trying to get his driver's license, and he's been trying to get his driver's license for some years now. And both of us have CP, and both of us have experience with this, so I feel like I need to speak on this and flip it to a larger issue. When you drive with cerebral palsy, or when you drive with a disability in general, you have to get evaluated. So basically, the way I did it was at 16 years old, because you had to take a driver's test. I had to actually take driver's ed, and I actually wanted to learn how to drive. So you go, you get an evaluation. You have to go to a hospital. For me, it was UIC. For him, it was Baylor, because I went to high school in Chicago. Go Astros. I went to high school in the south suburbs. Go Astros. So I went to UIC. I got evaluated. The lady said I have potential. Just go to a driving school and just get a lot of practice in, and I should be driving. Now, in my situation, I learned how to do hand controls. We never could invest in the money for hand controls. I did learn how to drive with hand controls. We never could invest in the money for that. So I actually know how to drive with my feet. I know how to pivot my feet and switch back and forth between the gas and the brake. So I actually know how to drive a car two ways, which is pretty dope. But I never really took driving seriously. I was more about gaining my independence and getting a house or getting my own place, getting a job, learning the bus system, because, the car not necessarily was an option, but I never really took it seriously. But in my 20s, I started learning how to drive like the normal way without hand controls, because they were too expensive. Found out I can drive a car. Found out all I needed to do was get practice. The older I got and the more people with disabilities that I knew, specifically with cerebral palsy, I learned that the system of how you go to school, you go get evaluated, they may or may not evaluate you, and then you have to go to special schools, which is the way my friend went about it. He went to Baylor, which is a hospital here. They have evaluations. They've never passed somebody with cerebral palsy, ever. They've never gave somebody a passing, because you have to, how an evaluation works, you have to take a bunch of like skills tests and reaction tests and just strength tests, and they've never passed anybody with cerebral palsy. UIC has, or at least given you potential to. So, so he has to go to, there's a school in Houston that specifically trains people with cerebral palsy and other neurological disabilities to learn how to drive. He's been getting a runaround for years, and he has to use them because they work with his schedule. There is a spot locally here but he can't use them because of his work schedule. So everybody else I know with cerebral palsy, myself included, we've driven cars without system help. We've driven cars. I've driven my mother's car. I've driven my mother's minivan. If I go back to Chicago right now, I could probably get a car, get hand controls later, get my license in a couple of months. It's not hard. And there are companies that will install hand controls for you. Matter of fact, a dealership can do it for you. Any dealership can do it for you. I had a guy basically tell me this. If I buy a car in a dealership, they can install hand controls for you. There are places where you can go and they will outfit hand controls for you if you buy them. You can get standard hand controls, which is like, and I forget the technical term, but it's basically the motorcycle throttle thing where, and anybody that drives an adaptive vehicle knows what I'm talking about. There's the long stick with the motorcycle throttle, and then you press down and there's the brake. Those cost $1,500. The last time I checked online, those are $1,500. You can get one of those. I don't have an electric wheelchair. I use a manual wheelchair and a walker, and I also have a set of crutches. I can break down my chair myself, so can he. So does most people that I know. Most people that I know with cerebral palsy that can drive have not done it through the conventional way of you're going to an evaluation thing, they give you an evaluation, then you go to driving school, or you go to a special driving school, quote unquote, and you use government assistance to help pay for all that stuff. Most people I know with cerebral palsy that can drive, they got a vehicle and they learn how to drive themselves, myself included. You know what I'm saying? But my friend is so used to the way we're supposed to do stuff. He's so used to using the system. He's so used to, like, he got to go through Baylor. He got to go through this school. He got to have DARS pay for everything. I'm not going to get on a DARS rant here, but I will say this. To get an adaptive vehicle, to get a truly adaptive vehicle with a van and a ramp and all that stuff, which a lot of us don't need, is anywhere between $45,000 to $60,000. It's really expensive to get one of those. Most of us don't need it. I myself can actually get a normal size pickup truck, put my wheelchair, or an SUV, put my wheelchair in the back, put my wheelchair in the back for like certain trips, get hand controls for $1,500 and keep on moving. He is even, I don't want to say better, but he doesn't even have to do that. He can walk on crutches. He doesn't have a manual wheelchair. He has a scooter, but he doesn't really use it now. He can get a regular sedan, throw his crutches in the back, and keep on moving. I have another friend who basically I think his parents or his uncle got him, because they worked in a junkyard, got him an old car, and he's from Minnesota, got him an old car, and they just he learned how to drive at 17, just having an old car, and he learned how to drive that way. And I've tried to explain to my friend how to go about doing this, and it's just like he vents about these schools not helping him, and he vents about these schools taking time away. Well, especially here, everything here is through Department of Rehabilitation Services. Everything. So anytime, because I'm off the grid when it comes to social services in the disabled community. I don't use Department of Rehabilitation Services. I had a really bad experience with them in Chicago, and I vowed never to use them again because they don't do anything. That is a total waste of money. That department, to me, and a lot of disabled people like me, is a waste of money. They don't help you get good jobs. They don't I have a college degree. These people do not help you get good jobs. They help you go to school barely, because if you're a person like me that had to move around or I changed majors. I've had to drop classes. You know how frustrating it is to deal with them dropping, like as far as dropping classes in college. No, I've seen people literally roll away from their school crying because DARS would not pay for them to go to school because they had to drop a class. Because I'm a graphic designer by trade, I had a DARS counselor tell me there's nothing I can do to help you because I can't place graphic designers. I've had graphic designer clients, I can't place them. The best thing I've seen somebody do for them is to try to get them a Walmart job, and they don't. And half the counselors don't even help place you or help you get services. They outsource a lot of their services, like employment services. They outsource to career counselors. So that's my short. That's my short little rant about DARS. So every system here uses DARS for money. Like if you need a wheelchair, you got to go through half the time. If you got to go through DARS. If you need wheelchair repair, you got to go through DARS. If you need anything to do with driving, you got to go through DARS. If you need anything, the first thing they ask you is, do you have a DARS counselor? And it's like, if you don't have a DARS counselor, then they look at you scratching their head like, why don't you have DARS? Well, they'll help you so much. So basically with these schools, you tell the DARS counselor you want to drive. The DARS counselor hooks you up with a school in Houston, or now there's a school I think there's a place in Euless now. I'm not sure. The last time I knew about it, they were trying to get their situation going on. And there's a place in Arlington. So there's 3 places where you can go get help driving. So you talk to the DARS counselor, and this is how my friend did it. My friend wants to drive. He talks to the DARS counselor. The DARS counselor's like, okay, we'll hook you up with Houston. They pay Houston for the hours or whatever. I think it's like $2,000 a session, and the session is anywhere between 5 to 7 hours, which is ridiculous. But I get it because they try to condense all the hours in one time. So, and then what he's finding out is they're finding ways not to give him. They're finding ways to not give him a license. Now, a lot of it is he might just not be good enough yet, which is fine because you're dealing with a multi-ton piece of machinery here, and if something goes wrong, people die, himself included, or people can die, himself included. My thing with him is, why are you trying to get the government to pay for stuff? Why are you trying to get the government to pay for a vehicle for you? Why are you trying to get the government to pay for sessions for you when all you need to do is go out, I suggested this. Go out and get you a car, get you a cheap vehicle, get you some hand controls. I even told him where to go to get hand controls for him. And we've been having this discussion for years, and he just doesn't. He wants the system to help him. And this is what I do. This is my larger point. There are people that genuinely need the system to help them out. Then there are people that are not. There are people that are so used to being in the system as far as help and as far as ways to do things and as far as how we do things as in a disabled community, that we've become very institutionalized as far as the system and as far as help. Now, there are people that know how to work the system really well. There are people because they work, they teeter between working and getting all the system help and stuff, and they're happy and cool and everything. But then I ain't talking about them. I'm talking about people that genuinely get screwed by the system every chance they get, but don't know how to do anything else from the system. I I will never. DARS messed me over once. I will never mess with them. I don't need to go to a certain school here. I don't need to go to a certain place here to get evaluated to know how to for driving, because the state of Texas doesn't care about that. The state of Texas only cares about, can you pass a driving test? That's it. We don't need DARS to pay for anything. We don't need DARS to, you know what I'm saying? We don't need DARS to help us. We don't. We don't need to be, you know, it takes a little longer to get certain things done yourself. Lord knows I know this because I choose not to use government assistance, with the exception of Social Security and medical insurance. And even then, I've had real medical insurance before. Like, I've had Aetna because I worked for a company for 4 years. It's better insurance. Having Medicaid and Medicare, and then having Aetna, you know the difference as far as the quality of doctors that you see. You know the difference as far as the time frame to get equipment is quicker. You know, I was taking physical therapy. The physical therapy was better. It was more individually focused than this is how we do things here, and I know the difference. So I just feel like, if you need the system, fine. But if you don't, do for self. And I think a lot of people with disabilities, and I think I'm gonna be completely honest, a lot of people with disabilities and a lot of minorities in general are like, we're stuck on the government nipple, man, and we need to get out of that. Because at the end of the day, like, all we end up doing is being institutionalized, man, as far as the system has to help me. And then you're going to end up being like, and then, because I brought this up, and I know this was kind of a bad example, but I was like, bro, you're Brooks, bro. I told him that he was Brooks from Shawshank Redemption, because if you've seen Shawshank Redemption, there's a part in the movie, and I'm not spoiling the movie, but there's a part in the movie where Brooks was an old con, and he had been in the prison, because Shawshank Redemption is a prison movie, and he's an old con, and he's been in the prison for 50. He's 70 something. He's been in the prison for 50 years. I think 50 or 50 plus years. They parole him after 50 years. He's 70. He's been in there like all his life. He goes home. They send him home, and he doesn't know what to do, because everything's been taken care of for him for years, and he doesn't know what to do. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know how you haven't seen the movie. It's a classic. I'm not gonna ruin the movie for you. Go see the movie, or at least go see the Brooks Goes Home. YouTube Brooks Goes Home, and you'll get the point. And I said, I don't want you to end up like Brooks. He's been fighting, and he's been trying to get his license for, we've been talking about this since 2009. Like, get out of the system, man. And I think a lot of us need to get out of the system. And a lot of us need to understand, too, as far as driving and as far as adaptive vehicles and as far as, like, you know, just things in general, understand what you can and cannot do. Like, for the longest time, I got to drive with hand controls. And then my mom was like, and I'm using driving as an example here. For the longest time, and I think I messed myself over when I was younger, because I learned how to drive with hand controls. You get a comfort level with them. And then it's like, I remember being 19. I remember having an argument with my mom about driving with hand controls. And she was like, we don't have the money for that. Just let's get in the car now. And I wish I can go back in time and I can tell my younger self, get in the car and like learn the normal way. Because the second I learned the normal way and how to pivot and stuff, and how to pivot with my feet and stuff, like, it was easy. The biggest thing with me was not foot strength. The biggest thing with me was controlling the wheel. So I had to work on my upper body apparently, to control the wheel and stuff. Then I found out that you can set your car up to where you can have reduced steering, to where it's not it's not difficult for you to turn the car. Don't even need hand controls. Just need a truck or a van or SUV, practice, and maybe some reduced steering, and maybe a couple of mirrors to help my peripheral vision, because depth perception is an issue with some people with cerebral palsy. I could do that myself, or I can go to a place that outfits cars, and I could do that myself. I don't need the government to help me with that. I can just get a vehicle, and that's what I was telling him. My friend in question that we had this discussion about. Me and his cerebral palsy are identical, and this brother works out every day. This man has me by 80 pounds in weight. There's no reason why he shouldn't be driving already, at all. But he's just so used to the system helping him, and he's so used to the system and the way we do things under the umbrella of the system, that they've been messing with him. And they've been messing with him because I honestly think it's a way to get DARS to pay more sessions. It's 2,000. That's 2 stacks a session. Every driving session he goes to is $2,000. You ain't telling me that company doesn't want to do. You telling me that company doesn't want to just say, hey man, you need about 70 more hours. That's like 5 more sessions. You telling me there's not a little bit of there might not be a little bit of a hustle there? I don't know. I just been so used to being out the system, with the exception of, medical insurance. And if I get a good job that pays good medical insurance, I'll be right back out, and I'll be doing my own thing. I've been so used to doing that and kind of not really messing with certain disabled centric things, that I have a different perspective on a lot of stuff. So I don't know, y'all. Let me know what you think. I know this was supposed to be a short one, but it lasted about 20 minutes. But let me know what you guys think, man. Am I wrong here? Am I wrong with being institutionalized with social services? I think we are. I think we as disabled people, and minorities in general, are too institutionalized when it comes to social services and the way to gain assistance, that we've forgotten how to do things for ourselves. Anyway, Push a Wild Black out. Happy Sunday. Later, people.